Welcome to another episode of the Mental Wealth Podcast, where we interview some very fantastic people who are doing very fantastic things. And today, my guest, we linked a few weeks ago through an inquiry I put out to find some of the best people to talk to the audience. And I think I have found one, Mrs. Cynthia Videau. How are you?
I am great. Thank you so much for having me. I'm glad. I think somebody tagged me under that, and there were so many people, so you could have, selected anybody. So I'm really appreciative that you took a look at what I have to offer and saw value and allowing me to even talk to you and your audience today. So thank you so much.
No, it's definitely no problem. I know you had stuck out because a lot of people don't know when I put out those inquiries and also reach out to certain people because certain people reach out to me as well. I try to do somewhat of a little bit of a background, at least in terms of going to your page. Are you selling on your page what you're telling me that you're good at, or your skill, or your product or service? Because that's a hard thing. I think a lot of people, which is also why I wanted to bring you on, is you actually, if I go to your page, I know exactly what you do. I know exactly what you sell. There is a link somewhere. There is a flyer. There is something where I can tell without having to scroll back 9-10 months of what you do and what you offer. So that's one of the primary reasons I wanted to bring you in, because I know you are. Do you call yourself a brand strategist?
I am a web designer, a branding strategist, and an ADA compliance specialist. So yes, I do.
Okay, and we're going to get into why all three of those things kind of all fit together as we go. But before we get started, I just want you to, because I read them, but I want you to go into just a few of your accolades up to this point, because it is very impressive.
Thank you so much. So I am Dr. Cynthia Videau, aka the Website Whisperer. I am an award-winning web designer, branding strategist. I have been nominated for Entrepreneur of the Year more than one time. We've been featured in Fox, ABC, CBS, NBC, LA Tribune for the design work that we do, for some of the strategy work that we've been a part of. I'm also an author, international and both national best-selling author for different collaborative books that I've been a part of. I've written several journals to really help women to heal through different things they have gone through. That's just on a personal note. But I felt like being able to yield and leverage who I am into that art form was great. I've been on several speaking events and stages and opportunities. I'm also a part of Forbes Black. But before Forbes Black was created, I was actually a part of Forbes The Culture. So I was engrafted into the Forbes community about 3 years ago. So I really love what I do. I'm trying to keep it small. I mean, I've been on several magazine covers that you may have seen, like Women Win magazine, Fashion GXD. You may have seen CEO Weekly or Courageous Women's magazine, Top 25 Women in Business. So there's several different publications that we've been a part of and that you may have seen me at. If you happen to Google my company or Google my name, you will see CBO Marketing Resource Center come up. And I think there we're at about 48 5-star reviews. If you go on Facebook, you'll see the same thing, about 40 there. So I'm really heavy on making sure that whatever I'm putting out is really giving people a return. So that's a part of maintaining that reputation that we actually have. Today, I've been an honoree for different networks, so it just really few. I know it's too long, but
no. Please, this is your time to. Because I want people to understand that you have been putting in the work and you have been doing your thing, and I want to make sure we spotlight that as well. So we're going to get into it because I know just based off my own research that you know what you're talking about. But before we get to that, I want to just let them know a little bit about who you are. So just give us a little bit about your background. Maybe when you grew up, how you grew up, and then we'll get into the branding and the web design part of it.
So I'm actually from Birmingham, Alabama. So if there's anybody watching from Birmingham, I grew up there.
Shout out to Birmingham.
You from Birmingham too?
No, actually, look, I'm from Phoenix City.
Okay.
We're a little smaller down there, but yeah.
Okay, cool. I have to go look that up on the map. But I'm from Birmingham, and then I transitioned to Hoover, and I graduated from Spain Park. And then I ended up going to UNA, and my bachelor's was in communications, mass communications. And so originally, y'all, my dream, and I actually do this. I haven't gone through my entire bio, but I was actually on a show that's called, it's in Huntsville, it's on Demi TV. It's called Black She Wrote. So I actually was on that show as well. So I love to act. I love to write, and I actually have done some modeling as well. I haven't done as much because I've been like an on-the-go mom. But my history was in art, and so originally I was going to go into acting, movies. I have a long history of about 10 years of acting and writing and all of that, competitions. But when I finished high school, I didn't get into Ithaca, which is where I wanted to go in New York. I didn't get into it, and I was like, oh no. So because I wasn't able to pursue that dream at that time, I decided to go to UNA. They still had a good arts program. So that was originally my focus, but I haven't gotten away from it, okay, because I still act from time to time. It's a really great, especially Demi TV, they're a great network. So if it's a show that really makes sense or is in alignment, the characters are great, I don't mind participating in that as well, because I do have a knack for TV art, interviews. So that's really my background. Communications was like a default, but then I'm really a great communicator. Like, I really love to take what people are saying, interpret it, and be able to say, okay, this is how I'm gathering what you're telling me, and then be able to come up with a solution for that. So I have a knack for communication, but I honestly believe that came from being misunderstood a lot. So I feel like sometimes we grow strengths in areas that we have either lacked in or we felt overlooked in, and so we put extra work in to those areas because we just want to fix it. And so I think my desire to be seen as a child and to be understood and to be known really morphed into who I am today, and I'm able to yield those things to my benefit and to the benefit of others. But really, I'm just a hometown girl from Birmingham that made it out and is still pushing every day. I'm a mom, you know. I have a 6-year-old son, and he thinks the world of me. I'm like, well, I don't know why you think all this, but I think the world too. Like, there's nothing like out of all the things that I could name and list and talk about, like, being his mom is top tier for me. Because ultimately, like, all of these things will eventually fade, like, you know, but his who he knows me to be, his well-being, his mind, his health, his mental health, him being emotionally intelligent, and me preparing for his future is like really my ultimate goal. So behind all of the movement and showing up and all of that is really because I want my son to see a great example of, you can do this, and I'm setting a stage for you to do it easier. So that's really at the core, you know, just me. And as on my hobbies, I like to play with makeup and, you know, get my locks done. But that's like my pastime. But ultimately at the core, I really love people, and I love to be able to see them grow. And I try to stay in my lane. I can't be everything, and I'm not every woman, but I think for who I'm made and created to be, I take that journey very seriously every day. And that's all you see happening right now.
Okay. Hey, look, shout out to all of that, especially the people person part, because I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like typically people who grow up wanting to help people and wanting to assist people in kind of finding their place in whatever, you know, niche or whatever market they try to be in, a lot of that does come from, you probably have that same mentality as a child, as a teenager. So I can assume, is it safe to assume that you were probably like a social butterfly? You were always trying to get people in groups and hang out and get people together and start, you know, getting people to hang out and together, something like that?
I'm actually, and people don't believe it, I'm really an introvert, but I know how to become an extrovert when I have to show up. Like, I have like what they call a social battery too.
I completely understand.
So I know how to charge myself enough to say, you don't have time to be sitting in the back. You have an expectation and you got to show up. So when it's time for me to show up and to deliver, I've already been pouring in enough to be able to do that. Now, when I'm in the work and we got to pull people together, okay, I'm your girl. We're going to get it done. But after that, I'm going to go back, you know.
Right. No, good. I definitely understand, because exactly, you described it perfectly in terms of, because you're similar to me, where I am an introvert. However, if we have a room full of introverts and something got to get done, I'm willing to kind of overexert myself to bring for the greater cause of whatever's going on. And I think we are the people. A lot of people may call you, you know, you're the glue. You may be the glue in your friend group or the glue in your family. Yeah. And I think that is a trait that a lot of people can't necessarily understand, where it's like, yeah, I like people, but I also like to teach myself. But when I get around people, sometimes I communicate very well. And a lot of people don't understand that balance. So I commend you. I definitely commend you for that. We say, well, we're going to, for the sake of this, we're going to say you are a brand strategist and a web designer. How do you even get into that space? What desire did you have to even get to that? Because you said you wanted to be, you wanted to be an actor. So
Yes.
even though that does have a lot to do with branding and marketing, how do we go from I want to be an actor to doing brand strategy and marketing for other people?
Let me just say, it was one of those, I'm living in the projects, I'm eating my ramen noodles and my Vienna sausages, but I want to be able to supplement my income.
Of course.
That was really it. I did not feel like I was gifted to be designing anybody's nothing. But I started designing a website for my church at the time, and they were like, we just need somebody to help. And I started creating. And then someone said to me, you know what? You may have a gift. Maybe you should explore it. And I was like, I don't know about that. This is, and mind you, this is just free. This is just me trying to do something to kind of be a blessing. I wasn't really trying to become a business owner, but I had a knack for it. And then they introduced me to a woman that became my mentor for 3 years. She was in business development. She would write the bylaws for different ministries. And so the customers that would come to her to get their LLC started, and mind you, let's backtrack 10 years. Okay. This is around 2014 that this has happened. So there was a little bit more, I'm sure people could do it, mailing stuff in. This is a little bit more manual labor. She was the one writing the SOPs for people and all that. So I was just the person that was going to create the websites to complement her clients. So that's what I would do. And I mean, I would do like a $400 site, and boy, if we had a $700 site, boy, that was doing it, because that really was, replacing some of the income, because I was working 2 jobs. I was working at Crystals and I was working at a clothing store, and I was making to do what it do, working overnight at one job and during the day the other job. So I was team no sleep. But I just wanted to make ends meet. And so this really was just out of a need. And I've talked about before how trauma will push you into bringing things out of you that you might not even know you have. And eventually you'll have to change the catalyst for why you show up. It can't always be from a place of pain. But that original place of pain and just wanting to have a little bit more made me create business cards. Now people are asking, do you make a logo? And I even have a client today that's been with me the entire 10 years. And she's like, I need a new business card. And I'll just, add for her team. She's been with me all this time. I'll just go ahead and send her another. This means she's been with me forever. So honestly, it came out of need, out of desperation, and somebody just making a suggestion. And then I just kept honing in on my craft. And then I joined different groups of other people that were already doing it better than me. So I could figure out, how can I do what they're doing? They use the same software as me. And so I just started to put a little bit of time in and water the gift, like over a period of time. It was not something that hit me instantly. Branding came later, because as the landscape was changing for businesses, I realized that people needed strategy, and they've always had it, right? These major companies that we follow, they've always had strategy. Okay, I don't care how big Coke is, they're going to be marketing somewhere. They're going to have some type of strategy somewhere, and they have, of course, way bigger room of people that are coming together to put their minds in that think tank. But there's always a strategy behind how you're going to pursue a relationship, or how you're going to pursue a business deal, or what type of offer you should be creating. And I wanted to be in a position where I could always differentiate myself. I feel like nowadays getting that visibility, or getting that little piece of the pie in the internet space, has been one of the areas that people are drowning in. And so if you're able to learn how to differentiate yourself, this is what I'm telling myself. If I can stand out, if I can always, whether it's through my design, whether it's through my form of communication, whether it's through my writing, or it's through creating these strategies, I know that this is one of the key points that people forget about in the way of creating their business. They just skip that and just want to get straight to selling, but they don't have a clue on if it's going to work or not, and they don't have a blueprint for it. So that's how the strategy point came into play a little bit, like years later, where I realized it's going to take a little bit more now than what it was before to get started.
Okay. And I guess, and to piggyback off of something that you said that was, I found very interesting, when you talked about the mentor. Describe to the audience how important that mentor was, not only in terms of strategy, but also in terms of mentality, because there are a lot of people who want to start businesses, but they're not necessarily surrounded by people who have ever done it. So if you tell those ideas to those people who have never done it, there's a confidence issue there. On top of, a lot of people start things, they start to sell things, and they don't even feel like, why would somebody buy from me? Why would you buy from me instead of somebody else? So I don't feel comfortable charging what I feel like I should charge. So just talk about your experience with how valuable your mentor was in terms of having that confidence to be able to actually believe somebody will buy something from you.
I truly feel like I wouldn't be where I am today if she hadn't taught me the basics. People skip the basics because the basics don't seem beautiful.
Right.
They're not flashy. You need to learn how to make an invoice, girl. I need an invoice. What's that? She was like, you need a contract. Let me give you one of my little templates. And it was a paper one, y'all. This wasn't let me send an e-sign. There wasn't no e-sign.
No e-docs.
It's all. And you sign it, and then I'm gonna send it back through the scanner, and then that's literally how it was back in the day for people to sign stuff with me. And I was like, okay. She helped me name my company. She helped me to understand that people will, if they really want something, they will make that investment, right? Also with the pricing issue, and when I taught a class on Monday about this, there's a guy in the class who asked the same question. He's a web designer. He's a growing web designer. And he was like, I was just going to do a page for maybe like 300 or so. And so I asked him, well, what do you want to make? Like, what is it that you really need? Because you may be putting yourself in a deficit because the amount of work is not going to change, right? Unless it's a different package. So I try to encourage people to disconnect your personal self-worth from the value of the product.
That's good.
Because you can never monetize, you can never put a dollar amount on your life. So no matter how much you try to, it's $5 million, that's cool, but is it really worth $5 million? Is it worth $1,000? What is it really worth in the market? From the market, what is the market demanding? And then are the people within your niche selling for around the same price? Is your price too low for them to believe you? Because price is a form of marketing as well. It can either attract people or deter people. So you don't want to put yourself in a position where you're only attracting people that will wear you out and ask you 50 million questions to get something done in excellence. So you want to make sure that your product is priced accordingly to the amount of work and for what you're getting ready to deliver, but never put it in attached to your personal self-worth. And I think that is a battle me personally I had to really, really work through, because remember, we started in trauma. So trauma can be from, in my case, and I spoke about this too at a financial literacy event, my trauma came around not having growing up, us lack growing up, always missing something or something happening. That is traumatic. And what that does is set up an expectation for you to lose. It sets up a mentality for you to not have, or to not feel secure, or to not know if this thing is going to be around next time. And that right there alone will make you automatically not charge your worth. You won't even invest as much into it as you probably could and should, because you're scared. That's where, in my opinion, the fear around success can show up for people, because if I get this high, it's not going to be here for long. They'll squander it. They'll squander something that was meant to be a blessing to them. They won't be able to hold on to it. So with her being around in my life, I was able to see her charging people, what her services were. She wasn't going to come down on it. I love that about her. We had our own office suite, and she's like, I had my own office. She had one. We had a whole computer room where people could come and learn. And this is like, I'm like young, like trying to, to be like her. She was very well organized. So she was just showing me, like, you got to have your files. Mind you, 10 years ago, like a filing cabinet.
Real files, not digital files, real files.
Files, like a real filing cabinet. And I like that I was trained and taught by someone who was seasoned, because the internet can shut down, But I really learned, like, then it's okay to start with the basics of where you are. Get that together. You can't cash out everybody to death. You need to be looking at, from a financial standpoint, is that going to be good on your bank statements? Like, those are things we had to talk about. She made me open a business bank account. She made me open a business bank account. I was like, I can't use my personal, like, this is my extra little funds. Right. Baby, this is where we're going to go get your EIN. I'm going to make you be a sole proprietor. This is where you go to, like, she made my mind shift from it just being a hobby to being a business.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that's the main point there. I think we have a lot of people, especially now as the digital era has become more prevalent. And I always say there's never been an easier time to make money in some form with the internet in some way. Facebook, social media, even emails, email marketing. You can make money if you know how to use the internet to your advantage.
Yeah.
But the con of that is there are a lot of people who are selling digitally but don't have any idea about a lot of the back end stuff. That's how you end up having people who don't have the LLCs, who don't have business bank accounts, and then you end up getting audited, or you don't have an accountant, you don't have your trademark, you don't have your copyright, so you don't have a lot of these things. So you're building up a company only for potentially somebody or some other company to come in and swipe it from you in some kind of way. And I think that education is very much lacking, especially these days when you just starting out. Because everybody's looking just try to, oh, I'm making money. That's the main topic. But then I know you understand, like I do. Once you start making the money, that's only half the battle. Because now we have to worry about having to keep the money and spend it to make it make sense, and marketing, branding ourselves, spending that money. Just because we're making it doesn't mean that it's going to, like you said, last forever.
Yeah, that's 100% true. It doesn't, because you have to be willing to reinvest. If you talk to people like you and I that have been in business and we've had to pour back in, it costs us something. Again, people get caught up in the almost like hoarding all of that. But just like my tax accountant told me today, he said, make sure you be sending the IRS a little bit more. Send a little bit more. I was like,
I hate it.
Just
I hate it.
a little bit. Send a little bit more, because I was mailing off stuff today. I said, hit that check. Hit his check. I just,
go ahead and give it to him.
The not so fun side of it, but that's the realistic side of it. That's just what it is. You got to pay to play. It's a pay to play game. Now, there's not a cap on your income, but it's going to cost you something to make that money. And you've got to be able to go with the flow. This is what happens in business for sure. So I do think that people start building in the eagerness, and the patience is not always there for getting the structure together. Some years ago, I ended up I have a service now. I don't really advertise it, but I do have legal services that I offer to certain clients that need to have an attorney. They don't have an attorney on retainer. They don't have somebody they can talk to because it's going to cost them an arm and a leg. Well, this doesn't cost you an arm and a leg to be able to have. So for clients that need that, they need to be able to talk to a lawyer. They need to make sure their contracts are together. They may have employees and they don't have the employee handbook. You talk about violations and all that. Well, here, I got a back end service I'm going to send to you so that can help you out. So it's just, again, those are things I had to learn over the years, because starting out, I didn't have a lawyer either. Like, what you mean? I'm trying to get out the hood, and I'm just trying to, have different options with my ramen noodles. It's either the jalapeno ones, the shrimp ones, and then, I'm going to have my Vienna sausages. I'm going to have my little neck bones and my pick five. Like, mind your business. So that's not the thing. But when you start making, you're talking about more than $600, you start dropping stuff, that's for real. And I'll give you another example of something that happened early on in my entrepreneur career that led to an audit. So one day I was, putting out my business and stuff, and I see these emails very seldomly, but there was a company that reached out and they wanted a website, and I was like, oh, I'm so excited. They wanted this crazy, like, massive website, and I don't know who I thought I was back then about to charge them $10,000, but I was charging them $10,000. Okay. So I was like, that's a whole lot. It's going to cost you like $5 for this, $5 for that, plus the marketing. Like, I have to be able to make sure all these things are going out. So they called, they gave us, in my computer system, you got to type in the credit card information, all that kind of stuff. I said, okay, I got your agreement together. And I'm talking to them on the phone, but they were just kind of weird. And they just gave me such a weird vibe that I refunded everything, didn't keep it. When a couple of years after that, I got a letter from the IRS, and they were like, hey, we feel like you owe us like, I think it was $1,200 to $1,500. And they showed the transaction that I had refunded. But because I was using a system, a third-party system to keep up with the accounting, I was able to mail back the proof and get the proof from the third-party company that helped me with accounting to show that I didn't even keep the money, because they thought I had the revenue that I did not have. When you're audited or something's going on, if you're not keeping track of anything, you don't have a third-party processor, it's just you and Cash App. That's not going to be the best thing. You want to have something else, another company that's keeping track of it. I was able to reach out to that company because they had sent, I think it was like a 1099. They sent like a different form to the government to let them know if she's made over a certain amount, they have to report it. But when they sent back that proof that I never kept the funds, that I refunded that, they dropped it and had to send me a refund.
Ooh.
They had to say it wasn't even much. I think it was like $80, but I took it. You know, it was.
The principle.
I tried to be on that side. This is again years ago, but integrity number one wouldn't let me keep money that I feel like didn't belong to me. I feel like those were stolen credit cards, and I'm not trying to mess up my life over some money. Number two, I had a system in place that was helping me to put my customers in. They will auto charge them for their maintenance for their websites. And this is, again, beginner software that I was using on my own. But if I needed to call one of them people there, I could get the help. When I needed the help because I was being audited and they wanted me to prove all of these things, I was able to go back and reference that transaction and prove that I did not keep those funds. But if I was just kind of doing it, and this is years later, if I was just kind of doing it on my own, I probably would have missed that and owed them money, thinking I owed them money I really didn't even have, I didn't even earn.
Yeah, so that's a lot of people get caught up. A lot of people don't even get to that point where you even get involved in the audit, because the more money you make, the more your stuff has to be in order, because as you start making more money, you're going to owe more taxes. Now it's up to you to be creative, make sure you have expenses, but also making sure you have all your bookkeeping in order. Because yes, there are a lot of things, depending on what industry you're in, that can be tax deductible in order for you to run your business properly. However, that does not matter if you cannot prove it. And I tell people this all the time, especially I use social media, you use social media. So of course we see a lot of things. We see a lot of educational things. We see a lot of uneducated things. So there's a lot of false information going on around here where it's like, yes, you can write a lot of things off, but that's not always the best thing depending on your specific situation, especially when it comes to like digital services. Digital services, it can get very tricky because you don't have a lot of most times you don't have a lot of overhead when you're selling something digitally.
It's true. And then you got to think about if you want to buy a house or you want to show a business that's profitable. Writing off everything. Well, you ain't never made no money. Why are you doing it? It would mentally be like, that don't make sense. Like, why are you in a business that you're not making any money? You never have a profitable year. Those things, like I remember telling my accountant, I want to make sure I'm able to buy a home. All of my income is there. It is what it is. You know, I'll pay the people. I'll pay the people.
Yeah, sometimes you got to pay the folks.
To show that I am stable. Like I don't need to. I'm not trying to write off. That's great. Like it doesn't make sense today if you want to be able to show growth, right? Yeah. And it's again important to get the assistance of a professional that knows that industry. He's been tax accountant for 40 years. Okay, the government don't even bother him. He sends stuff in. They already know it's legit. So it's just good to make sure you have someone that knows what they're doing, certified somewhere. They got the experience to be able to guide you in the right direction, or you could be on, just TikToking it or Facebooking it, and it may not be the best for you.
Right. Everything depends on your specific situation.
Absolutely.
Now to the brand, to the strategy side.
Yes.
What do you feel like from your experience and the people you work with? What is the most common misconception about branding that you may see a client have in the beginning?
Oh, that is just about how things, their message is normally a little bit confusing. They don't know exactly what their customer may be struggling with. They have a hard time identifying that, or they have a hard time articulating who they are, what they do. They just can't get it out. In their head, it makes sense. Because remember, these are thought leaders. These are visionaries. These are experts that I work with. They're already successful at what they're doing, but they're in a position where they now want to teach someone else how to do it, or they want to be able to give instruction on how to do it, or they want to be able to speak more. And they just are having a hard time being able to give someone their mission, their vision, their core values. They don't have that culture set up within their organization, and they just can't quite see how they can connect the dots between who they are and their audience and how to bridge those conversations. How can we create a conversation? How can we create a relationship? So when I do this, and I joke with my clients, but they normally get their coffee and their tea and their snacks, but we sit down and I go through a series of in-depth questions that pull out the depth of what that person is really looking for and who they want to be, whether it be a personal brand, and most of my clients have a personal brand, or maybe a corporate brand, and it's, you know, a group of different people and how they want to run things. But for those that have like a personal brand, they have a hard time being able to stand true to their authentic identity without feeling like they have to convert or change who they are at the core to be received or to fit in. And so that is one thing I really am serious about with my clients. Is like, I don't want you to change who you are to feel like you have to appease the masses. Let's leverage and use the greatest part of who you are already, so that you can start to connect with other people that want to be where you are, that you want to teach, talk to, or sell your products to. So that's a gap there. They also don't have a SWOT analysis done. So inside of the strategies that I create, I'll go through, and again, it's all from these in-depth questions.
Oh, not to cut you off, but explain, just in case people who are not aware, explain to them briefly what a SWOT analysis is.
So a SWOT analysis is your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, and your threats. It's like a chart or an analysis of the things that can affect your business and you personally. So if you have a personal brand and you want to know what your strengths are, you need to be writing those things down. Like, what are you good at? What do you do, and what are you good at that doesn't really take a whole lot of energy out of you, that you just naturally can do? What are your weaknesses? Like, what are the things that you really do struggle with? You can make it a strength, but it's going to take a lot of energy and effort to do that. Your weaknesses are probably the things that you should be delegating to other people. Those are probably, if you're not an admin, quit trying to do all these admin tasks. If you're not a marketer, give it to somebody that's really good at it and loves it, because you want to leverage the strengths of other people to become stronger in those areas. Opportunities. What opportunities are around you, right? Whether it be partnership, whether it be joining your local chamber, whether it be having interviews with other people who are like-minded. What are the opportunities that you can create for other people? Where's the brunch you were supposed to do? Where's the book you were supposed to write? You know, where's the event that you're supposed to have? What are the opportunities available to you to increase your revenue and to increase your impact in the world? And then your threats. Threats are things that are going to take you down, will take you out. If you're not taking care of your health, that could be a threat to your business. What is something that you know if you do not correct it, you will crash and burn? That's a threat. So being able to have a analysis of these things helps my clients to see where they need to get stronger. Also, when it comes to your competitors, I'm able to do a SWOT analysis on them, so you can see where you are in comparison to the one that you want to be like, right? If you know where the gaps are, then you know how to leverage that and fill in some of those gaps. And you can, you know, kind of talk to the customer base of your competitors, right? Because this is something that they want. But if you don't have enough research or information, then you won't really know what they want, and you may be kind of throwing in the dark. So whenever I'm creating brand strategies, I go even as far as that, to look at a SWOT analysis and to look at the offers that you have. Is the setup of your offer going to make sense? Is this something that people are even searching for? Where are your digital products at? Do you have one that people can use? Like, let's take a look at all of the areas that can help you to have a blueprint that's going to make sense for your business long term. And we can tweak it if needed. But those are some of the key areas I think people struggle with in trying to just create a brand in general. Having a business and having a brand are different things. You can have a business and not really have something that people resonate with or know about for real. They don't know all that you do and all that. So having a brand means you have an identity. It means that when people think about you, they think about what you do. They know exactly who you are.
Okay. Do you feel like everybody needs a brand? Because the counter argument sometimes would be where, especially when it comes to maybe people who aren't necessarily into social media, they feel like, I don't really need a social media presence. I do something that maybe is tangible. Maybe they invest in like tangible assets. Maybe they have a building. Maybe they have something that, if you go on Google and you're in the Google system, you may be able to get some customers to call you directly. But they're resistant to using social media and having a social media personality and a brand. So do you feel like it's necessary? Do you feel like no matter regardless of what you do or what you sell, everybody should have a specific brand?
Well, whether you want to have a brand or not, you got one, because people know about you at some point in time, right?
Right.
So if you want people to know what it is that you do, you got to be branding yourself as that person, or you got to be branding your company. I have a client who likes a faceless company. He don't want to be the primary person. He's like, I'm not a speaker, Sin. I'm not a speaker. I'm not that person. I'll teach all day. He works in HR, does an amazing job with operations for companies, but he doesn't want to be the spokesperson. He's okay with having a hired actor, do the presentation. But whether you want to have a personal brand or not, you are known for something, so you might as well have control over the narrative. That does not mean that you have to be on social media all the time to create a brand. I know somebody who does at least $500,000 a year, and she don't have no social media presence whatsoever. Her business is all referral based. She's in finance, but her character is her personal brand. People love her. She's so sweet. She's so integral, so patient. See how I'm describing her brand? And she ain't even on social media. She's not making reels. She ain't doing none of that. And she's been in business for like 15 years, making this money and beyond. She's just that person. People come to her because they know that they're safe, they're protected, they're going to get things done. So your brand doesn't have to be that you're on social media at all, but it is for what you are known for.
Okay, that's good. I think that is a very key thing that you just explained, because I do feel like there are people. I do say everybody is a brand, regardless of whether you're selling something from that brand or not. Every time you go and walk into your job, you have a brand. It's how you're perceived and what those people that in your environment think about you. So you are a brand, whether you want to be one or not. Now, if you choose to then market a product or a service as an extension of that brand, then I think that's where people sometimes struggle. Because to your point, I think a lot of people worry more about necessarily what's selling than what they want to keep selling. And that's how you end up with people who, I don't know, of course you remember. You remember a while back when everybody was trying to go viral doing something. You have people doing pranks, and you have people jumping into things and grabbing people, and they would go viral. So then when you try to convert that into something salesy, they know you as this brand. They know you as a person that does this thing. So a lot of people go viral, or a lot of people sell things and sell a lot. And even teaching, even coaching, they coach something they don't really love. And then when they eventually get tired of it, you're now known as the insert niche person, and you don't want to be that person anymore. But now you're kind of stuck.
Listen, you said a whole lot right there. Let me kind of break it down a little bit too, because I made a post the other day about transitioning from an influencer to like a thought leader, and how it may require some additional steps to assert yourself as a person of knowledge and not just a person of entertainment, or someone that's always willing to showcase other people's products. If that is your brand, that's your brand, and that's okay. But if you have to be able to put in a knowledge base or the educational piece along the way. You have to leverage, and you and your wife are like experts at this, right? You have your business, you have your digital products, but you also have your lifestyle, and you have the influencer part that is working for you. So if she wanted to talk about credit some more, she could, right? If she wanted to talk about other things, she could. How to become a leader, she could. Like, y'all can sit and talk about those things because you're living it. Some of the influencers, I think, struggle with trying to exhibit a lifestyle they can't sustain. And then they want to transition and be taken more seriously. So you may have to come off the internet and regroup. It is hard because you've created an audience of people that just want to laugh and be entertained. They're not trying to fix their problem. You've got to have, I hate to say it like this, but an audience of people with an issue that you solve. You got to be in the problem-solving business. And they have to see you as a person that's able to do that and elevate that and help them to transition to where they want to be. It doesn't mean that they're suffering all the time, but that they are aware that it's there, and there's something deep inside of them that makes them want to make some adjustments. They want to come away from whatever it is that's holding them up. If you create an audience of people that just want to laugh, or they just want to be entertained and things like that, it's a little bit harder to get them to see you as a thought leader. You just have to continue to push different content. You got to segue out of just this into something else. So you can't get lost in the sauce if you're hopping on every trend. That you can just get lost. They don't know you. They don't know who you are. You get lost.
Right. And I don't feel like there's anything wrong with I think we have the same mentality in terms of I think when you get people who are just starting to get into the business side, one of the biggest issues that I do see is they have a hard time finding balance between being who they were in terms of who they were to people. And then once you start getting on the business side, being able to then sell to these people. Because a lot of people, I've heard it plenty of times before, is, well, I don't want to post on, why are you not posting your link? Why are you not posting your products more than once or twice a day? Well, I don't want to seem too salesy. And it's like, well, you're in sales. So
You're in
it's
sales.
like you're in sales. And I think people have a hard time trying to figure out the balance between being salesy and just being authentic based on your business. And I think it's what you pointed out, where I think a lot of these people are selling products that they do not believe in, or they're selling something that they're not doing or that they've never done.
Yeah.
And then they're trying to convince somebody else to then do it. And they're doing it with a level of unconfidence and a level of you're not even living this lifestyle. You're trying to
Yeah.
mold your lifestyle around something that you're not doing on a daily basis. And that's why you're struggling, as opposed to finding out what you do in your life already and then
Yeah.
making the content around that thing.
Correct. And honestly, I feel like with me personally, I take little breaks from social media, maybe like a day or two, because it can get, I think, overwhelming if you're always looking at too much. Overconsumption is a real thing. It's like going to a buffet of all these different people's ideas and all this content. And so I think it's good to kind of like decompress and not get overly stimulated by all this different information. It is a real thing to have all these different reels in your head, every single song in your head, what this coach said to do, what this strategy was, this new technology out, this AI tool. Like, I honestly, for me personally, I just be like, okay, I'm gonna take this day and just decompress from all of that, so I don't allow that stuff to influence my identity. People detach from who they are because they really haven't tapped into who they are meant to be.
That's good.
They just haven't, and it scares them because now they can't mimic or duplicate the success of someone else. They've never tapped into what makes them who they are. So it's so much easier to be able to do that. And let me say this too. When I was younger and I hopped into theater, and I've told this before, and that is crazy to think now as a little girl that I understood this. But I had such a tumultuous home life that I felt like being an actress would allow me to not be myself during that period of time. I literally could be someone different. I understood that as a little girl. If you grow up like that and you never deal with the mask, you'll start believing that that's who you are. It is not until you start to deal with the why behind you ever allow that mask to be there, why you're in the business that you're in, why you want to create the business. What is it for? Is it for you to really change the world, to solve a problem, to make money? Or is it because you want to be seen and heard and you want somebody to see you as valuable? What is it really? Because you want to make sure you're creating something, getting into a business that has purpose. And the purpose is deeper than serving your ego.
Mm. That's a good word. Ego there. That's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
That is a good one. So okay, so as a strategist,
Mm-hmm.
pretend I am somebody. Let's say, because there's a lot of people out there who are selling something, and maybe they've been trying to get over the hump for a while now. Maybe they have. Let's say, for example, let's just say I'm somebody who I do hair, for example, and I'm very good at doing hair,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm having trouble conveying that on my social media. I'm having trouble getting referrals. I'm having trouble branding myself because this is what I want to do, and I do want to expand this maybe into products. What's something that you would tell somebody in that position where they're already established, but they're having trouble with kind of their own branding? What's something that you would tell? What's one of the first things you would tell them to do or identify to kind of instantly kind of evaluate their situation?
So number one, I want to know how their business is structured and what they got going on right now. Or who are you following, like online? Like I want to know what they're looking at or trying to match. Like who are your competitors what's going on in your industry, because I do believe success leaves clues. I think sometimes in an effort to grow, we kind of reinvent a wheel that's already made. So I would really want to know what the struggle is on a deeper level. Is it that you're not getting enough clients? Are you only relying on referral base? Do you have a sales system? Are you running any sales within your business? How often are you marketing? Where are you diversifying your marketing? Do you have a mix of content on your page that has nothing to do with what you do? Are people confused when they come to your page? Can they identify quickly who you are and how and where you serve, how you serve? Do you have a physical location? Are you licensed? Are you listed on Google, Bing, Yelp? Do you have reviews? Who can validate that your services are great? What are you doing right now already? And let's look at the numbers. Let's look at what's working for you and what's not working for you. I'd have to see a full story. I had to do an audit of what's happening. Are you on Instagram? Are you on TikTok? Are you doing all hairstyles? Are you doing too many hairstyles? Are you willing to partner up and be in a shop with somebody that's already established? Are you by yourself? Like, I would want to know what's happening on the day to day. Are you keeping up with your numbers? Do you need to bring in other stylists to work alongside you? What's your overall growth goal? Do you have a business coach with the business structure? Like, are you making money or not making money? What's happening? I would want to know what the deeper issues are that they are having. Are they feeling like overwhelmed, right? Are you feeling overwhelmed? Like, what is it that you feel like you need to allow you to show up as the best version of you within your business? But what efforts are you putting in right now that were working that's not working? So I'd have to ask some more questions to figure out what they're doing, where they want to go, and then let's look at some of the gaps within their brand. But I will say that I have seen those that are doing well with their reels. They are very consistent with posting their how it's done. Like, I like to watch the lock videos. Okay, I'm biased. I watch the lock videos, but I love people love to get a little bit of tips as well when they're doing stuff. They like to see the before, the after makeup videos. I watch them. People are we're on a platform. You have to know what platform you're on. Okay, we are in an era where being entertained and being glued. Social media is like an addictive system. The goal is to keep you on the platform the longest. So you got to have really high quality, entertaining content. Otherwise, it just doesn't get as much viewership. You've got to be creating a quality product, right? Quality video. Sometimes I've seen people that are doing hair or doing makeup or doing whatever, and the videos look very so dated that it's not enough to catch somebody's attention. So I have to see where they're really, really struggling and what's going on. And if I feel like even with us creating a strategy that we're not even a good fit, I'm going to find somebody that's already doing something very, very successfully in your industry and pair you up with them. I don't have to be able to know how to do everything. I can see what's going on and give you an assessment. But if I really feel like you need to be pairing up with somebody who's already a vet in your industry, I'm about to find that person. That's going to be a must-have, because you may be self-studied, but you might need to study as an apprentice under someone else that's already where you want to be. Coaching will never go out of style. But I would do an assessment to find out like what's really working, what's not working, and why is it not working for you.
Okay. And I guess how do we, because there's a lot of content out now, probably more than ever, on different platforms. There are different versions. There's different types of marketing. So how can someone sometimes it can be overwhelming. So how can someone stick out or try to be better at sticking out when there's so many different brands and so many different people and so many different companies marketing to you on an everyday basis? How does somebody stand out amongst that crowd?
A lot of it is their messaging, knowing your customer on a emotional, mental, psychological level, knowing buyer behaviors. And I'm not necessarily a sales coach, but I've had a sales coach.
Okay.
But knowing your customer and your messaging is a heavy lifter, right? Because we can post content all day, but what is it really saying and who is it saying it to? If you're too broad, it's kind of like casting a net and you're trying to get anybody and everybody. If you're still trying to get anybody and everybody, you'll probably get nobody. So like when I have classes and I'm talking to entrepreneurs that want to hire a designer, I actually taught a class last year for a trademark attorney she has like a whole group of entrepreneurs who obviously need to get their trademark. They want to be able to make sure their contracts are good, but they struggled in the area of making sure that they were selecting a really good designer or for their website. Because when you start talking about ownership, your domain is a part of that, right? When you start talking about logos and something being created, who owns that is actually your designer until you get something released from them saying that, hey, you now have ownership of this. You talk about copyright and all that. You've got to know how to get those things released. Or if you have an inexperienced designer designing a software that's not permitted for you to be designing in, to get a trademark, you need to know that as well. So you need to know what the message is that you are trying to get people. For me, my company is to help mitigate the legal risks of the top 1%. Yes, we're going to create an amazing website. Yes, we're going to be able to have a great brand strategy, but ultimately it's to help protect your global brand. This is for influencers, government contractors, entrepreneurs. Each one of those specific industries have a different need, but they all need protection for their brand. And how do we do that? Through compliance. It's a real thing. So I think that with all of the content that's going on, people need to be clear about what their message is so they can speak to the person that they're trying to serve. Otherwise, they're talking to everybody, and everybody's just not your client. Everybody's just not. And so I think that's where people kind of they struggle with that part for sure.
Oh yeah, I think a lot of people struggle with that. I think you have to be very specific. You can't be specific unless you know who you're talking to, like you stated, because a lot of times our message, if you leave the message open to interpretation, then not everybody is going to understand it. And it's also not going to convert. We're trying to get people from being a stranger to being somebody mildly interested, to maybe buying a smaller product and then buying a larger product and then buying another larger product, low ticket, mid, high. We're trying to get them through, their actual sales funnels, but we're trying to get them through the funnel, the branding funnel. How well do you know me? Are you comfortable with my message? Are you comfortable with believing me? Because there are a lot of people out here who have messages, and then you talk to them and they can't really, they're more focused on what they've accomplished, which nothing wrong with that, but they're more focused on what they've accomplished as opposed to how what they've accomplished can help you solve your problem. People care about what I've done, but they really care about what I've done and how I can transform that into something that can help them. How can I get out of my current situation and get on the path to where I'm trying to go? Like, your story is cool. I think telling our story is very pivotal because it gives people a sense of, okay, well, we have similar stories. If they can do it, I can do it too. But you still have to give them the information to be able to put them in the right direction. They still have to put in the work, of course.
Yes.
But you still have to at least give them the blueprint for them to be able to build whatever it is, whether it's branding or whether it's their store, whether it's their marketing or whatever the case may be. Briefly, can you share with me what you would consider I don't want to say your best work since you've been in the strategy field, in the designing field, but what's one client, one story of a client? You don't have to say any names, of course, but one that you're particularly proud of in terms of where they started and where they ended up, or something that you built for them that was a very large turnout, or just what's something that you're very proud of?
Oh, there's a couple. Because I have people I see them growing. It's amazing. But I have this one client, and this comes to mind. They were pursuing a really big 7-figure deal. And when he came to me, he was like, I got a website done on Fiverr, and it's got all kind of words in it, and I'm going to lose the deal. Like, I'm going to lose it. Like, my branding stuff is not on point. I want this client. Can you help? I said, well, let me take a look and do an analysis, but we need to go ahead and get your website together, your online presence across the board, not just Facebook, but Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, your brand identity, your logo needs to be more commercial. It looks, I don't know what this is that you got going on. And so we sat down, we formulated a plan, we got everything updated. And then he said, okay, I'm about to go after this client, and I hope they get a clear understanding of our professionalism. This is why having a really solid brand presence matters, because it adds into your credibility. It adds into your authority. It adds into that trust being there for someone to say, okay, this company is about something. And mind you, he's not the face of the business. So what we got on there is to give a very global, broad look. I said, okay, so go ahead and pursue them. I'll be doing some stuff on the back end. Don't worry about it. He said he went for the deal. He talked to the people. He said the first thing they said on the call was, let us go look at your website. We just need to verify a few things and see if you're real. And he said they went through it like a fine tooth comb, and he was so nervous. But at the end of the day, they closed $1 million. They closed $1 million from that deal, from being strategic, from getting their stuff in order.
So how does that make you feel? How does that make you as a strategist, as somebody who you can say you had a hand in, they had a problem and you helped them solve that problem, and because of your solution, they ended up closing $1 million deal? How does that make you feel as not only a business person, but also just as a person?
Excited. That's like a win-win. Like, like just extremely excited. And then the joy in my client's voice, them crying, they had tears, like everything, because it helped take care of their staff. Like, I mean, it just did. I have another one that's similar to that, but it changed their life in a different way. But it's just, it really makes me feel like the work I'm doing is worth it. It makes me feel like I cannot quit. I have to keep on going. I have to keep pushing. But it brings me joy. Obviously, I'm smiling even now. It brings me joy to know that it changed their entire business. It changed their personal lives. It brought a peace in. They were growing. They had staff. They had been doing grassroots campaigns, and they needed to be able to show people and show the market. Until this day, I get calls from them all the time. Just talked to them actually earlier today about their brand. They were like, you know what? People still keep going to this site. And I kid you not, it's just, it works for them. Like, my clients want to feel confident when they go into like a boardroom where they're going to present like their brand guidelines that they have, because we create those. It makes me feel good to know my people are proud, that they don't have to go anywhere with their head hanging down, because they know that they put in the work to make sure that their brand looks like beautiful and clean and corporate and organized across the board. And so that makes me feel great, honestly, that I'm able to participate in that for my clients.
That is a something to hold your hat on. That is a feather in your cap. And I think that there is a fine difference, and I think you described it perfectly, because that was somebody who went to, I know a lot of people use Fiverr. Like, I've used Fiverr.
Yeah.
I've sent people to Fiverr. We're not saying there's anything wrong with Fiverr. However, when you do get to a certain point or a certain level, or you're trying to attract a certain level of client, you do have to be willing to spend a little more. Yes. Because it's one thing to be, especially in the beginning, there is a very big difference between using the resources that you can afford, yes, and just being cheap. Because, because if you're just doing what you can afford, then you're maxing out your, yes, budget based on the level that you're at. So as you increase in level, you're going to increase your budget. Yes. If you're just trying to be cheap, you're just looking for the cheapest option to do whatever it is. So, yes, if you have a cheap website, or I've seen this in many cases, you have a website that you don't necessarily know how it works. So, yes, something happens and you can't, like Fiverr, for example, they make your website, something happens, you have nobody to contact to solve this problem. And you have a $1 million deal on the line, or you have a launch that you're trying to get going, yes, and something happens to the website, you don't have anybody to talk to, because
and that's what happened. That's what happened with them. That's legit. That is what happened. And that's how my name, the Website Whisperer, came about as well, because people were running into all type of issues, and it made them not feel as confident in web design. And so I would come in and heal that area. And they're like, okay, I believe in web designers again. It's a wrap, it's good. So that's for real. I believe in releasing ownership to my clients, right? So when I talk about rights, or when I teach about policies, when I talk about selecting the right designer, I talk about making sure that designer gives you what belongs to you. So my clients, all of them, they have access to their websites. And so I used to say this, and I'll still say it today. If anything were to happen to me, or like something happens to my team members, my client's business shouldn't have to stop because I'm no longer here. That's not fair. So I've never put my clients in a position where they feel like they have to scratch and pull and try to get access to something they've already paid for. No, it's yours. And you want to make sure as an entrepreneur that's starting off, even if you are using Fiverr, you better make sure you get access control, rights, transfer something to you so that you're not dependent on that. You don't want that. And then after you get it, maybe find someone else that can help maintain it for you. I'm a Wix partner, a Wix Legend partner. I'll actually be hanging out with some of our Wix partners tomorrow in Atlanta for another class they have going on. But if you have a Wix site, then find someone that can assist with that. So, like if you have a WordPress, find somebody that can assist with that. Yeah.
Right. So, okay. And let me ask. So, do you think that somebody, say a business person, businessman, businesswoman, do you feel like there is such thing as maybe being a little too over the top? And I ask that in terms of marketing, and I'm talking specifically in terms of because you have, you're a master of website design. A lot of people think with their website, it has to be colorful and flashy and have a bunch of moving videos, and their logo has to be their face with glitter in it and all of those type of things. So are you more of an advocate for maybe more of a streamline, it's nice, it's crisp, but it works? Or, do you try to, encourage more color and more complex logo design and things like that?
I'm a little bit of team both. It just depends on who you're appealing to. Because you can have clean, streamlined landing pages. It has a clear message of what we're doing here. We're leading you to where you got to go, and you can have that and it be plain or it can be colorful. It just depends on your industry. I have clients that are in PR and they are bold. Their brand, right, is bold. And there is a such thing as color psychology, color theory. So for our clients that may be in the mental health field, they don't need a whole lot of bright colors because that's not what resonates well. Colors have meanings. I have to pull up a color wheel. If somebody is at home that's watching this, pull up color theory or a color wheel. Colors have different meanings behind them. So if you have red, it may be fire, it may be bold, it may be fierce. If you got purple, it may be royalty. So you just want to have colors that align with your branding guidelines. Number one, what are the colors for your brand? That could be hex codes. We may have seen those numbers before if you're designing in Canva or you're designing in Wix. You may have seen those codes before. But know what your brand colors are and why you selected those particular colors, because that's what's going to resonate with people. You want that to be translated into your presentations. You want that to be translated into your website, into your business card. You want to keep that brand consistency. But choosing bold and bright colors, make sure that it aligns with the type of audience. What are you trying to get people to feel? What message, again, are you trying to convey through design? Because design has its own message as well. And design, again, should be an expression of your brand strategy. Advertising should be pushing out, what's built inside of your strategy. All these different areas are an extension of you and what you want people to perceive about you. So if you like plain, simple, clean, crisp, you don't do a lot of bright colors, that's fine. You maybe have a more calming, subtle, smooth brand. But if you're like some of our other clients that like the big, bright, bold colors, you got it. Because their personality, their brand culture, and how they intend to present themselves is that. So their website matches who they're about to meet.
Okay. Do you ever have you ever turned down a client, even if they had, let's say, even if you could tell they maybe had the funds wasn't an issue, but maybe what's maybe a red flag when you do your maybe consultations with a potential client? What's something that shows it was like, you're not necessarily ready for what I bring?
Yes, and this actually was a person that's well established. They have, they make multiple seven figures. That's a whole theme. They do well. They have a big community, but their attitude was not something I could work with. They were very picky, like nitpicking. Well, I don't think that should be like that. And she wasn't even a client. She's just looking at the same portfolio you looked at. Okay.
Okay.
But what her issue was is she didn't want to invest. I was holding her to a standard of, yes, we can get started, but it will require you to make an initial investment. We're not getting started for free. I don't do sample work for you to think there's 100 sites out here. There's so much work that you can go research, and you've been following me for a while, so you know who I am. You've even met me in person. So this was the energy was kind of like, I just want to see what I can kind of get from you because I really don't want to pay that much. And most people kind of get what I want. I don't work with entitled buyers.
You feel like she was fishing for information?
Fishing for somewhat, like she doesn't necessarily need me for branding. She just wanted somebody to be the design work, but she wants what I present, what my company has for a price point that won't work.
Okay.
It's not going to work, and so that's okay. But I'm also not going to let you try to pick apart well done work because you're trying to get me to come down to where you are. I'm not there.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
That makes perfect sense. I just want to make sure we're clear because a lot of people's like, well, I'll never turn down money. It's like, no, once you start making it and you kind of understand that there's more to it, you'll turn down one to save your time or save a headache down the line. So, you know, not all money is good money. So sometimes you got to turn a couple people down if it doesn't align with your vision or align with, you know, what you feel like you are as a business.
Absolutely, because it will be more headache. You got to be willing to hold on to enough money to refund if you have to. You don't. I'm telling you, when you start to sense that, because we all will you're going to run into a person a time or two in your entrepreneurial journey. As much as you may vet some people, you're not going to know everybody. That's why it's good to get a clear understanding of what they're looking for. When I ask people on different calls, like discovery calls, like, have you worked with a web designer before? What happened? I need to know because I have had people say, "Oh, the web designer didn't do this and they didn't do that," and it was them the whole time. And in me learning their personality, I could see why another designer said, "I'm not able to continue with you." And I've actually had to fire a client who was absolutely disrespectful of my home life, my home time, and we had to cut ties. And they were $1 million organization. It does not matter. If you're working with someone or working with an organization that is going to berate you or, you know, not be respectful of your business hours, they feel entitled to have access to you 24/7. That is not ideal. I'm a family woman. Okay. I'm not doing that. So you gotta, it's best you can to be able to vet people. And if you can't get out of the agreement, honor that agreement and do not renew.
Yeah, look, that's not everybody willing to turn down that check. So I definitely commend you for it. It's not easy for a lot of people. So as we get ready to wrap, just a couple more things for you. How do you balance your personal life with your professional life? Like you said, you have a child, of course, you have family, you have a social life. You know, how do you balance it? Because I think a lot of people look for balance, especially in the beginning. Yeah. They're trying to. They're not even thinking about how to balance both in the beginning because you're so, especially where we come from, our backgrounds, you may not come from much, or you may have, you know, a lot, but you have aspirations to achieve, you know, lifestyles of the rich and famous, but, you know, people that we see to have things that we haven't been able to obtain, even with nicely paying regular job.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people don't have the foresight to understand, like, hey, you're going to have money, but if you want $1 billion, it's going to cost you almost twice as much work that you're going to have to put in. You're going to miss a lot of things. So how do you specifically balance making money and having a certain lifestyle and supplying that lifestyle and supplying the best life you can for your son, while also making sure that you're not missing those moments?
Number one, I pray because I deal with the mommy guilt from time to time. I don't feel like I've mastered that, so I may not be the best example, but what I will say is I keep up with his homework and schoolwork. Every day we're working on something. Every time that the teachers need extra time, because I can set my own schedule, I'm going to show up for it. So I'm a volunteer. I'm on the mommy's board, you know. I don't mind sponsoring some of the school events to assist with that. I try to get off the computer and play with him. His biggest thing is, can you play with me? And even if I'm tired, I have to condition myself to remember, yeah, I may have work today, but my work is not done because my son has to be poured into and tended to. So if that means that I've got to play with dinosaurs and Hot Wheels and watch Speedmeister and make his dinosaur nuggets and fries, which is his daily, okay? That's what he needs to feel love. For me personally, in spite of how I'm feeling, it's very important for my son to still feel love from me. So I fight through my tiredness to give him that. I don't always feel like it. I'm not going to sit here and say, this is every day I feel great. No, I don't. Some days I've had long days. What if I had a long proposal to make? Or if there was a government contractor that needed something from me, they want to bring me in on a deal. On one end, I'm like, oh, this is amazing. I got things I got to do and deadlines. On the other end, remember, like, this is my family. This is my seed. Like, he doesn't care about any of those things. That does not matter to him. All he wants is his mom. So I try to put myself in his shoes and remember that. And I give him the time that I can give him. I still get him bathed and just love on him to the best of my ability. And where I may have shortcomings, I just ask God to help me and to fill in the gaps that I just cannot fill in by myself. And that's just being 100% real. Like, God is my provider and literally keeps my head above water and keeps me sane. So if I missed it that day, I didn't get everything done, I just chop it up to Lord, I tried. And I don't think I'll ever have that balance, but I do think that once I have a help me, it will help to provide some of that strength, because I'm working. When you're a single parent, you work overtime to almost make up for some of those areas. Now I'm grateful that I have a great co-parent. Honestly, I don't have no problems. But in the household that we're in, it still requires me to have to put in that extra work, because I'm the only one cooking. I'm the only one cleaning. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I try not to beat myself up too bad that I may not have met everything. So the balance I don't think I found, but I try every single day to pour into my son the best that I can.
Like, at the end of the day, that's all we can do is just try our best and just try to do the best we can to find some level of peace and joy, and just try to look back at the end and try to say we did the best that we could. So I definitely commend you for at least, doing what you can every day to try to make every day have meaning to it. It's definitely not easy. So if anybody's looking for you, where can they find you? Socials, website, services, anything you would like to have here?
Yes. So anybody across the globe can find me at cynthiavideau.com. That's www.cynthiavideau.com. And you'll see a work with us button. Just click on work with us, and there's an application to be able to work with me. You can always call my office at 256-770-4550. We're open Monday through Thursday, and I can take some client appointments on Friday. It just depends. But Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., we are always open. You can send me an email if you want to send me an email about our services, or you have questions about how to get started with me, at contact@cbeyondmarketing.net. And that's the letter C, the word beyond, marketing.net. And then I'm always on Facebook. You can find me on LinkedIn. Kind of on Instagram every now and then, but I am on TikTok. So any of those areas, if you want to learn more about brand strategy, if you want to listen to me teach about some of the brand assessments that I've done already, or if you want to shoot me a DM, you can definitely shoot me a DM on Facebook. You'll catch me there a lot quicker about your brand. So I'd love to be able to work with you.
All right, fantastic. Well, Miss Cynthia Videau, thank you so much for joining me. This was a fantastic conversation. I learned a lot of things. I'm going to probably get off of here and implement on my own, because similarly on Instagram, I've been kind of slacking on Instagram too. So I think trying to balance all the different platforms can be a little daunting, but no excuse. We kind of have to figure out a way to make it happen. So I've learned some things I'm going to take and apply to my own businesses and my own events and my own launches as well. So we probably gonna have to end up doing a part 2 of this. Just to, I think there's so much more we can kind of go over. I'm very looking forward to that as well. So until next time, everybody, hope you guys have a great evening, and we will talk to you soon.